Hello and welcome into another episode of Locked On Wolves. Today on the show, should the Timberwolves and could the Timberwolves trade for Bulls guard Coby White? Why they may or may not. Next.
You are Locked On Timberwolves, your daily Minnesota Timberwolves podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Wolves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend. Today on the show, we're going to talk Coby White. Coby White is potentially a trade asset the Bulls will be willing to give up. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent this offseason. I'll talk about all kind of the nuts and bolts of that and why I actually like him as a Timberwolves trade target. Of course, being an unrestricted free agent this summer means you can't give up too much to get him. And you know, are the Bulls going to wait till closer to the deadline to try and trade him? So we're going to dig into that. And I'll tell you why and why not this could happen. There is a legit rumor out there. I think it's the Chicago Sun-Times. We'll get into all that. And you know, what that could look like for Minnesota. We'll also talk a little about the Athletics front office survey, and the Timberwolves are a top 10 front office according to that survey. Once again, not a surprise. We'll also preview Wolves Warriors here tonight. The Timberwolves finally back in action after not playing since Monday. However, there is somebody out of the lineup for the Timberwolves in this game. The Warriors should get Steph Curry back, but Draymond is out. And like I said, the Wolves will be down a rotation guy as well. So we'll break into that here toward the end of the show. Big thank you off the top for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, this show is free and available everywhere. That includes YouTube, as well as all of your favorite audio platforms. Wherever you like to listen to podcasts, you can find Locked On Wolves. All right. So the Coby White rumor. Let's talk about first where it's coming from. It's Joe Conley at the Chicago Sun-Times, who's fairly plugged in with the Bulls. He's reporting in his article that there's actually a couple interesting things here. So I'll give you this first. I'll talk about, I guess, the counterpoint, and then some of the like logistics around the trade. Could it happen? How it could happen? Why it may or may not. He acknowledges in his article, Conley does, that the Timberwolves have inquired on John Morant. They've inquired apparently on Kyrie Irving from the Mavs, and that Coby White is a more realistic target, his words. He says, time is of the essence for the Bulls to make a decision. The source said that the Timberwolves are not looking to wait until February and the trade deadline to get a deal done. Rather, they are looking to fix the primary ball handling situation that has been an issue for them all season. White not only does that, but also helps them continue to improve on their pace, which has been a priority since last year. And then he goes on to say that the Bulls aren't ready to give up yet, even though they've lost 7 in a row, and they essentially want to keep fighting this season. And then there's a potential package included here that would include, seems to be just Cowley's idea, a trade package that would include Dante DiVincenzo, TJ Shannon, and a future draft pick. Okay, so more on that in a second. The counterpoint here for or regarding this would be John Krasinski was asked about this on Twitter. He said, of course, the Timberwolves reporter for The Athletic, and he said there's nothing about that right now, and maybe later, basically, is what he said. I'm paraphrasing, and I'll pull up the exact tweet so that I'm not paraphrasing the great John Krasinski. But that's essentially the gist of it. Is like he said, it's not about to happen, but there could be interest here in the future. Here we go. He said, I can tell you that there is absolutely nothing cooking there right now. Could that change down the road? Maybe. He's certainly a name to watch, but nothing percolating yet. This makes 100% sense. I understand Conley says in his article the Wolves want to make a move sooner rather than later and not wait till the deadline. Sure, the Bulls are in no rush to trade Coby White, right? They're going to get the best possible trade offer for him closer to the trade deadline, especially as a guy whose contract is expiring this year. So that makes sense. And the Wolves aren't likely to, rock the boat entirely right now. Let's see how things shake out. Remember, the schedule gets tough over the course of December. So I think you wait and see how this plays out. If they start playing better against good teams. Remember last year, I don't want to get too in the weeds comparing this year to last year, but the Wolves are 3 games better than they were at this time last year. I know it doesn't feel great. And yes, the schedule's been easier. They play less back-to-backs. There's been more frustrating losses, but the fact of the matter is this Wolves team last year was barely over 500 at this point, and still made the conference finals. So there's still some stuff to be played out here. So I would be pretty shocked if Minnesota made this deal sooner rather than later. But I also know why they're interested in Coby White. First, who's Coby White as a player? Should the Wolves be interested? The short answer is yes. Coby White is, he was a 20-point per game scorer last year. I think his fit with Minnesota would be fine. So let me say it this way. In a vacuum, I really, really like Coby White. Like I like Coby White a lot. I've always liked him. I'm a little concerned about a potential fit with Minnesota for a couple of reasons. One, he's not really a pure point guard either. Like, he's actually more similar to Donte DiVincenzo than I think people might realize. And Conley goes on in his article to talk about how DiVincenzo would help the Bulls defensively, yada, yada. Okay, fine. That's fine. DiVincenzo's a better defender than Coby White, but DiVincenzo hasn't been great defensively this year either. And overall, I think he's generally overrated as a defensive player, and he's a far superior shooter. Coby White shoots for his career more than 6 threes per game, and he's under 37%. Last year, he was 37% on the dot at nearly 8 per game. This year, he's only played in 7 games because he had a calf injury earlier this season. He's just 30% on 7.5 threes per game. He's never had a season above 38.5%, and he's only had one season above 37.5%. So he's a league average at best shooter on relatively high volume. He is a scorer first guard, and he can score. He's a really nice scorer, and he can distribute the ball, but he's a small combo guard is essentially the deal with Coby White. And he's good at the rim. He gets the rim enough for his size. Because of his size, I worry a little bit about injury stuff longer term. So I really like the player in a vacuum. Would I love to plug him onto the Timberwolves roster and give nothing up? Yes. Do I think he's worth trading Donte DiVincenzo and Shannon and a pick, that's a whole other conversation, is the Wolves can't really trade any picks. There's like one swap available to them and they have some seconds. So like if it's a second, fine, they could do that. They've actually got quite a few seconds they could move. Like, I don't love that. I'm not convinced. I actually think Donte DiVincenzo is a better player in a vacuum than Coby White. Would Coby White, Coby White scoring off the dribble, I should say, is better than Donte, right? Like that skill, scoring for himself, looking for his own shot, is superior than Donte DiVincenzo. Donte is much more of a catch and shoot 3-point guy. We know that, right? The percentage of shots that Dante's assisted on, Coby White is like, what? He gets assisted on 32% of his 2-point shots and 82% of his threes for his career. Let's see. I think I have the Donte number right here too. The Donte number is this season 38% on twos and 72% on twos, 97% on threes. So Coby White's scoring for himself off the dribble on twos all the time. Donte DiVincenzo is not. Like, that's the primary difference. So that does solve the Timberwolves' concern about having another scorer, right? So then you would have Ant, you'd have Julius Randle, and you'd have Coby White. These guys can all score for themselves. They all do it in slightly different ways. Ant is more efficient from the perimeter, getting to the free throw line. Coby White's more of a magician, getting to the basket and scoring inside the arc. And Julius Randle's a combination of those things, but he's also a bit of a Swiss Army knife. That's not probably the right term. He's really more of a hub offensively. When you're playing through Julius Randle, he can pass and score. Coby White's looking out for his own shot, and he's a good driving kick guy, right? Like, he's good at that. He can run a pick and roll. He can function as a point guard. So you're solving we need another scorer who can get his own, sure, but he's not solving the straw that stirs the drink, guy that can play make for others thing. He's more of a Donte who's better inside the arc than outside the arc. And I don't know that really solves what you're trying to do. On top of that, he's a free agent this summer. So you'd be giving up an asset with a fantastic contract in Donte DiVincenzo, another asset in a guy on his second year on a rookie deal who very likely is a rotation level player once he's healthy and reintegrated, and potentially a draft pick. I really like Coby White, and I would love for the Wolves to be interested in him in free agency. That would be great. But I don't think it makes sense to go out and trade for him if this is the price. I mean, Coby White is earning just under $13 million this year. Minnesota would have to try and they can't take back more salary than they send out because of being past the apron, right? I should also say Coby White's an expiring contract. He's a free agent this summer. he very likely is going to hit unrestricted free agency because he'd be limited to like a 4-year deal, like $87 million if he signs with his current team. So if Minnesota traded for him, they could offer him that deal, but he likely would still go to free agency. So this is potentially a rental that he leaves on the open market. So if I'm Minnesota and you could get him for, say, Mike Conley and TJ Shannon, which, by the way, that does line up in the trade machine. You could do that from a salary standpoint. If you could trade Conley and TJ Shannon for Coby White and maybe have to throw in a second-round pick, I would have that conversation because that improves your overall rotation. Now, DiVincenzo, Coby White are similar, like basically the same size. They're both combo guards. Like now you have some redundancy there, but Coby White's better than Mike Conley. There's already some redundancy there because Mike Conley does very limited stuff. And so now you've improved your depth a little bit. And the risk with him walking is a lot lower. Mike Conley's a free agent anyway. He's not going to be in the plans beyond this year. You're giving up TJ Shannon. But like, what's the upside of 25-year-old TJ Shannon versus 25-year-old Coby White? And for this year specifically, it improves you a lot. So you're really only giving up whatever you think TJ Shannon turns into if you trade Conley and a pick in TJ Shannon for Coby White. Now, that's probably not enough for the Bulls, though. And that's, unless you can find a first-round pick from somebody else in a multi-team deal. I think it'd be hard to make this work because of all those reasons. I think giving up DiVincenzo plus TJ Shannon plus a pick is far too much for what could turn into a rental for a guy who's a little bit redundant and doesn't solve your diminutive guard / non-playmaking for others guard, ball handling guard. I mean, obviously he's a ball handler, but he's not a traditional point guard, right? So I'd be a little surprised if this is where we landed. I would do it if you could convince the Bulls to do it and not give up DiVincenzo, because I do think he would bring a nice element to the Wolves that they're missing. I just don't think it's worth giving up a guy who's such a good floor spacer in DiVincenzo on a fantastic team-friendly contract, plus a guy like TJ Shannon, who's a rotation guy. Now, there's another layer to this, which I want to hit next very quickly, and then we'll move on to talk about the athletic survey. Could the Timberwolves be interested in a certain point guard that is a free agent to replace Mike Conley if he were traded in a Coby White deal? We'll talk about that here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Zocdoc. Guys, it's 2025, almost 2026, and those days of waiting for something to become a full-blown emergency before you see a doctor, they're over. No more walking it off for 6 months. No more pretending that weird shoulder stiffness is just sleeping wrong. It's time to take your health seriously, and Zocdoc makes that easier than ever. Because staying healthy is more than hitting the gym or eating right. It's about actually getting things checked out when something feels off. You can use Zocdoc to make your scheduling easier. You search for in-network doctors and book right in the app. Plus, the real appointment times are listed, including same-day visits. And there's no more back-and-forth phone calls or waiting weeks to be seen. Plus, you can compare providers that use real patient reviews and not ads. It will help you stay on top of your health before something becomes a bigger problem. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments and get the care you need. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's Zocdoc, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNBA. Big thank you once again for making Locked On Wolves your first listen of the day. And of course, thanks for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We could not do it without you. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. You can join the brand new Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Wolves with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnWolves.supercast.com, LockedOnWolves.supercast.com. Or check the link in the show notes to learn more. I'll have some more information toward the end of the show about a way you can get your first month free of the Everydayer Club. Again, right now, if you want to sign up, go to LockedOnWolves.supercast.com to be a part of the Everydayer Club. All right. So my second thought related to the potential for a Coby White trade is if you can land Coby White for Mike Conley, TJ Shannon, or maybe it's Mike Conley and Rob Dillingham. I think the financials could get a little stickier there because Dillingham's salary is larger, but I think it would still work. I would honestly, in this deal, the Bulls would need more probably than what I'm suggesting. I acknowledge that. Would I trade Dillingham instead of Shannon? I would. If you're getting back Coby White and you think there's a snowball's chance you could re-sign him, then fine. Trade Dillingham, trade Mike Conley, redo your whole point guard position, right? And include a second round pick, or maybe find a pick from somebody else. You could trade, I don't think anyone's trading a first for like TJ Shannon, but you could trade him somewhere else for a first round pick and then send that to the Bulls as part of a multi-team deal. If they end up trading Mike Conley, I guess the point is Chris Paul's a free agent. There was a report that he potentially could be interested in coming to Minnesota. It was kind of a, I forget who it was that was reporting it, but like it's an obvious potential fit for Chris Paul. I haven't talked about it on the show because I don't think it happens overall. I don't think it happens anytime soon. If it does, it's not going to happen with Mike Conley on the roster. But if there was a Conley plus Shannon or Dillingham plus pick for Coby White, then you could bring in Chris Paul to fill the Conley role, and your depth just gets greater. And by Conley role, I mean he may play even less than that if you have Coby White. But he wouldn't be super redundant, right? Chris Paul would be that more traditional point guard. And if you don't trade Dillingham, he can, be the mentor to Rob Dillingham the rest of the season, whatever the case might be. I think that would be the next place I would look if you need another point guard, is Chris Paul can still play a little bit. He can certainly play more than Mike Conley right now, but I'd be shocked if Minnesota tried to add him without moving off of Mike Conley. And of course, then there's a locker room consideration with Mike Conley as well. So I don't think Minnesota does anything in December. I'd be very genuinely surprised if they did. So I don't put a lot of stock into that portion of the Crowley report over at the Cowley report over at the Chicago Sun-Times. But something to keep an eye on for sure. All right, transitioning to talk about the Athletic Best Front Offices article. They had 36 executives vote on the league's best front offices. And of course, Sam Presti and the Thunder ranked number one. They obviously 31 of the 36 first place votes. They got 3 second place votes, and somehow the Thunder got 2 third place votes, which I don't really understand. The team that won the title and it is currently 24-1, something insane. Minnesota, believe it or not. So, okay, Minnesota finished 7th in terms of the overall ranking, but Minnesota was actually 2nd in terms of first place vote. So of the 5 teams that didn't vote, no, I'm sorry. I misread that. They tied for 3rd with second place votes. The way this chart is weird. The team with 2 first place votes is Miami, and then Houston, Boston, Indiana each got 1 first place vote. The Timberwolves had 3 second place votes. The teams that had 3 or more second place votes were Minnesota. Well, the Thunder got 3 also. The Celtics, the Rockets, the Heat, the Pacers, the Cavs, and then the Spurs also got 3 second place votes. The Wolves got overall more votes though than the Spurs and ranked ahead of them. So Minnesota got 3 third place votes. Nope. 3 second place votes, 1 third place vote, 5 fourth place votes, and 2 fifth place votes, and are 7th overall. I am on board with that ranking. I think it makes sense to have them behind the Rockets, Heat, and Pacers and Cavs. I don't know. I honestly I think it's hard to ding the Cavs too much. And given what the Pacers did to quickly flip that roster and build around Halliburton and get to the finals is a big deal. And the Heat are consistently very good. I don't know. I would put Minnesota kind of on the same play, and the Rockets too. I would put, if I were tiering this, I would go OKC number 1, Boston number 2, and then Houston, Miami, Indiana, Cleveland, Minnesota all should be in that next tier together. We got to see how the Pacers bounce back from the Halliburton injury. And they had some pretty lean years, right before the Halliburton acquisition, right? So we got to keep that in mind. The Cavs front off, they haven't built a team that can win in the playoffs yet. They haven't gotten past the second round, and they haven't quite figured out how to best leverage Evan Mobley and I guess Donovan Mitchell alongside him with sustained success, develop Mobley, et cetera, which I guess is more coaching than front office. The Rockets, let's see them get past the first round before we crown them. But obviously they've done a nice job with the Durant thing and keeping Amen Thompson, getting Durant without giving up Amen Thompson or Şengün. Very impressive there. Boston is Boston. I get that. But Minnesota ranking 7th isn't shocking in either direction to me. Last year they ranked 5th on this list. I'm sure the Pacers jumped them. Well, actually I could tell you. The Pacers and the Cavs both jumped them. Last year the Pacers, so to prove my point earlier, the Pacers were tied for 11th last year, and now they're 5th on this list. I don't know, they got to the finals. The Wolves only got to the conference finals, but they did it twice, and I don't know. I think it's weird to have them jump the Wolves entirely. The Cavs are 6th, up from 8. Minnesota's 7, down from 5. And the one quote in here says, one rival exec says, Tim Conley has always been really good at what he does. He has a good eye for talent. General manager Matt Lloyd should not be overlooked either. Those guys balance each other really well. While trading Towns was difficult, they knew they needed to have depth and could not keep the payroll going the way it was with Cat's salary and impending free agents to move allowed them to keep depth and some flexibility moving forward. All that is true. They talk about the fantastic Conley trade that also got Nikhil Alexander-Walker, and then they need to hope that, well, it actually lists Terrence Shannon as a recent Wolves win in the draft. It's a little tough. I think it's a little early to say for sure Shannon's a win. I think he probably is, but it does list Jaden McDaniels, who was drafted by Gerson Rosas, but kept and developed by the Timberwolves front office and coaching staff. So all that to say, it's a fair ranking. I get it. I agree with it. If I tiered them, though, I'd put Minnesota in that third tier, OKC in a tier, Boston in a tier, and then Minnesota in the same tier with the likes of Houston, Miami, I guess Indiana as well, and in Cleveland. I'd put Minnesota in that tier. And then after that, Knicks, Spurs, Warriors were the next teams on the list. That makes sense to me too, rounding out the top 10. So thought that was fascinating. Check it out on The Athletic if you do have a subscription over there. I want to close by looking at this matchup between the Wolves and Warriors. A few players, notable players out, although Steph Curry is supposed to play. We'll break all that down here next. Today's episode of Locked On Wolves is brought to us by our friends at Quo. New year, new systems. And this is the time when a lot of us look at the messier parts of running a business and think there has to be a better way. And there is. Today's episode is brought to you by Quo, spelled Quo, the smarter way to run your business communications. If you're ready to make your workday smoother and keep customers connected without the headaches, Quo makes upgrading your setup easier than ever. A streamlined system makes such a big difference when you're communicating with customers. Having calls, texts, and voicemails in one clean view keeps everything organized and helps you stay responsive. Plus, being able to share one team number, makes it so much easier to make sure nothing gets missed. It is super easy. You can work from your phone or computer, keep your existing number, and add teammates in minutes. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free. Plus, get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedOnNBA. Again, that's Quo, QUO.com/LockedOnNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to us by our title sponsors over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. They update player props as guys get hot. You can bet next touchdown scores in football, drive results, totals. You can also do the same thing with basketball games. There's no current line on the Timberwolves Warriors game for Friday night. There is. It's updated. The Warriors are favored by 4.5 at home against the Wolves. Feels a little high to me. I know Steph is playing. We're going to talk next about the injury report. I don't mind Minnesota plus 4.5 in this game, but it's Warriors minus 4.5 as of right now. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, let's close out today by talking Wolves-Warriors matchup. Injury report is pretty notable in this one. First, with the Warriors, Chris Paul's back. Nope, not Chris Paul. Wow. Other old point guard, obviously still better. Steph Curry is back for the Warriors after missing the last 3 games. He is off the injury report entirely. However, Draymond Green is not going to play due to a personal issue. And who's the other one? There's another guy that's missing too, but no Draymond is the big one for the Warriors. So looking at this matchup, the Timberwolves obviously have not seen Golden State yet this season. So first matchup, Wolves-Golden State. The Warriors have struggled a little bit here lately without Steph Curry. They're just 13-12 right now in the season. And if you look at at Cleaning the Glass, if you want to dig into some of their season numbers to this point, the Golden State Warriors are surprisingly bad offensively, but really good defensively, which that part's not entirely surprising. I was a little bit surprised when I dug into the numbers about how kind of pedestrian at best the offense has been for them. To this point, Golden State is the 21st in offense at cleaning the glass. They're just 18th in effective field goal percentage. They turn it over a ton, which is not unusual for a Steph Curry team. They also don't offensive rebound, and they don't get to the free throw line. They're bottom 8, or I should say bottom 12 in all of those categories. Defensively, though, they're the 4th best unit. So it all kind of, averages out to them having the 14th best point differential as of right now. And again, over 500 at 13 and 12. So for them, like, not a bad place to be at this point in the season, given some of the injuries they've had. Draymond in and out of the lineup. And now the same thing with Steph Curry, although he'll be back. The other one was Al Horford is going to be out on Friday as well and not playing the game. So significant to be missing those guys, but even more significant to have Steph Curry back and playing for them. So no Horford and no Draymond Green. Those things do matter. It obviously impacts the defense with Draymond being out. Steph, before the injury this year, 28 points a game on 39% shooting. He's just Steph doing Steph things. Notably, the Warriors are number 1 in 3-point rate league-wide, but they're just 14th in percentage. Steph's shooting 39%. Like, nobody else on volume is having a great season. Podziemski is shooting just a shade under 40%. Moses Moody's 39% on pretty good volume. Jimmy Butler is only shooting 2 a game, but he's shooting 46.5% from 3, which is crazy. And Butler's averaging 19.5 per game. He's been fantastic for the Warriors to this point in the season. So something to I don't know. I guess with Steph back, we'll see if maybe it's only been a couple weeks, but to get Steph and Jimmy Butler reintegrated will be interesting. But the offense, it's what you would think you would get is a Warriors team that turns it over a lot, shoots a lot of threes. They don't make as many threes as the old Warriors teams. They also don't play nearly as fast as the old Warriors teams. So it's a bit more of a unique kind of Steph Curry, kind of half court trick than it is the pace that they used to play at. Buddy Hield, by the way, shooting just 30.5% from outside the arc in a bench role for them, which is a bit shocking. Nearly 5 attempts per game. Other rotation guys that shoot threes but don't make them, like Jonathan Kuminga's one. Quentin Post is just 35%, but he shoots them. So a winnable game for Minnesota, certainly. The challenge is going to be scoring for the Wolves offense against this Warriors defense. Golden State is the 4th best defense in the league. They force a lot of turnovers. They defend without fouling. They do give up a fair amount of offensive rebounds. So if Minnesota could recommit to crashing the glass on that end of the floor, that would be helpful. There will be no Mike Conley in this game. That's the Wolves injury I alluded to earlier. He's not playing due to, I think, foot soreness, or actually that's Ant's actually on the injury report as well due to right foot soreness, but he's questionable for this game. Conley's on the injury report for right Achilles tendinopathy. So no Mike Conley. Ant is questionable. I'd be surprised if he doesn't find a way to play in Golden State against Steph Curry, but who knows? I talked about this a minute ago. The FanDuel line right now is Warriors by 4.5, which seems a little higher than I would expect. So maybe there is some sense that perhaps Ant doesn't play on Friday. I don't know. Officially listed as questionable as of this recording. So we will see. But it should be a really fun matchup. Obviously, like I said, a winnable road game for Minnesota without Draymond and without Al Horford for Golden State. If I'm Minnesota, I try and push the pace. The Wolves play at a faster pace than Golden State. They're a younger team than Jimmy Butler and Steph Curry and the aging Golden State guys. And then also offensive rebounding. Crash the glass. Minnesota's middle of the pack offensive rebound rate wise. They're just a shade below where they finished last year. So do that, and then that could also help you get to the free throw line a little bit more, which could be big against this Warriors team. No Draymond means Rudy can do Rudy stuff. Although notable, if Rudy gets another flagrant or 2 more flagrants, I guess 2 more flagrant points, he gets suspended. He gets another flagrant 2. Then after that, every flagrant beyond that threshold of points, I think he's at 5. If he gets to 7, that it's 2 games suspension every time he gets another flagrant foul. So Rudy's got to pay attention to that. Although with no Draymond, he is less likely to get provoked, I would think. So something to keep an eye on in this one, but it should be a really fun game. We'll have the live postcast following with Luke and Jack. Be sure to tune into that as we do after every Wolves game. mostly every Wolves game. We've had a couple here lately where we didn't have a postcast, but by and large, we'll have postcasts after most Wolves games. A reminder about the Everydayer Club. You can sign up for the Everydayer Club at lockdownwolves.supercast.com. And if you want to get your first month for free, there's also a way to do that. Check out your Spotify Wrapped. If Locked On Wolves is on your Spotify Wrapped, prove it on social media to secure a free month of the brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our National Lockdown Podcast Network account on any social platform. We'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show, this one, Locked On Wolves, ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. Again, if you just want to straight sign up, you can go to lockedonwolves.supercast.com. A big thank you for making Locked On Wolves your first listen every day. Of course, you can listen wherever you get podcasts. You can watch on YouTube as well. And it's greatly appreciated that you do make us your first listen. Of course, this show is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your local experts on all the biggest stories. Once again, I'm Ben Beecken. This is the Locked On Wolves podcast. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you next time.